Hello, everyone. Please just make sure that we are not in a Q&A session right now. So we are not starting the session yet to make sure that all the speakers have equal time to deliver their content.
Hello, everyone. Please just make sure that we are not in a Q&A.
Okay. Apologies for that. Just trying to adjust the live streaming. But we are not in the Q&A session right now. We are not going to take questions right now. This is going to be a webinar to make sure that all the panelists deliver the content that they prepare for. We are asking kindly that the participants to lower your hands at the moment. And if you have any questions, please feel free to type into the Q&A box down there right next to the raise hand function, and we will try our best to cover it. But our main priority is to make sure that our partners deliver the content that they prepare, which we believe you will enjoy. And I was told that one of the speakers will be delivering the speech in Spanish, which means that we are going to use the translating functions in Zoom. As you can see on the bottom of your streaming window for all the participants, there is a function called captions. If you turn that on, you can choose the language that you prefer to see the captions for. So again, we are starting in 5 minutes, and welcome to over 127 participants. Thank you so much for your time, and I will leave the floor to our panelists today.
So in another 2 minutes, we will start the session. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, greetings to all the participants and speakers for joining this session at the United Nations High-Level Political Forum on SDG Learning, Resilience in a Time of Crisis, Transforming Energy Access, Climate Action Learning, and Strengthening Indigenous Knowledge to Achieve the SDGs. My name is Milind Pimprikar from Canis. I'm based here in Montreal, Canada. I will be serving as the moderator on behalf of 6 organizations that are organizing this event. So we have a very jammed program covering 10 speakers, and we will be addressing the 5 SDGs that will be addressed for this HLPF, SDG 6, 7, 9, 11, and 17. So I'd like to welcome again to everyone and request you to participate fully into this program. So this is the structure of the program that we have in 90 minutes. First, in the 20 minutes, we will have the opening and setting the stage, providing the objective, the scope, and the expected outcome from this session. Then the main components of this session, where we will be discussing 3 issues: the transforming energy access, the climate action learning, and the strengthening indigenous knowledge. And then at the end, we will have the question and answer for 15 minutes for questions from the participants as well as from the panelists. So I'd like to begin with the first part of the program, which is the opening remarks. I would like to invite first our colleague, Mr. Sami Arikat, which is Sustainable Development Officer at the United Nations UNITAR UNDESA. So Sami, please, floor for you.
Good morning and good afternoon, and welcome to all the partners and participants, distinguished sessions participants, government representatives, national stakeholders, United Nations colleagues, and ladies and gentlemen. It's really my privilege and pleasure to join my colleague, Dr. Milind Pimprikar, the chairman of CANIAS, and to welcome you all to this session 3 of the SDG Learning, Training, and Practice at the United Nations 2023 High-Level Political Forum. I'm very glad to join the Session 3 partners and welcome you on behalf of UNDESA, Division for Sustainable Development Goals. As a quick introduction, the division provides leadership in promoting and coordinating the implementation of the Sustainable Development Agenda of the United Nations. It also serves as the secretariat for the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. I will have the chance during the session program to share with you an overview of a training tool aimed at mainstreaming green, sustainable, and resilient recovery and transition planning at the local level through enhanced voluntary local review. Our partnership with Canias and the sessions partners in SDG Learning and Training has been actually continuous. And since the start of COVID-19, with our shared interest and objective of advancing the recovery of the pandemic and other crises in the sustainable, green, and resilient direction, which is the direction of the Sustainable Development Goals. We could not have had this learning session and this number of partners without the hard work and effective coordination of my colleague, Milind, the founder and chairman of Canias. And he is extremely influential network builder with focus on transitioning innovative technologies-based solutions. His activities are all in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Agenda for all and leaving no one behind. His work also is a very good example of the important roles of civil society, research centers, NGOs, that they can play in the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. Time is not enough, actually, to allow me to give Milind enough justice. And on behalf of all the session partners, we thank you, Milind, for all your hard work and support to ensure the success of the learning session.
Thank you, Sammy. Thank you so much for this introduction. It's very nice with the nice word. I'd like to now invite our distinguished colleague, Dr. Mirna Cunningham, Chair for the Pawanka Fund. She's also the Vice Chair for PIRAC, the Fund for Latin America and the Caribbean, and the spokesperson for the United Nations SDG 10. Dr. Mirna doesn't need an introduction. She's an extremely well-known figure among the indigenous communities worldwide. And I'd like to invite now Dr. Mirna to provide the opening remarks. Dr. Mirna?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Milin. And thank all of the partners that have organized this learning session. The session will be about resilience, and I would like to introduce by discussing a little what indigenous peoples understand as resilience. There have been different definitions of resilient societies as those where everyone, including the poor and marginalized groups, are safe and can withstand shocks and protect the integrity of their culture. This is a very broad concept, but generally it refers to a system's capacity to persist amid shocks, adapt to future challenges, and transform in ways that enhance their functioning. And there have been at least 3 types of resilience strategies identified: risk reduction and mitigation strategies, coping strategies, and transformative strategies. And today in this session, we will be discussing about transformative strategies that tend to be rarer and reflect efforts by society to strengthen, reform, or create new institutions that improve citizens' welfare and better prepare society to weather future crises. These type of strategies are more often recognized at a national or global level, but we have seen a lot of that during COVID-19. And in this session, we will be discussing the interconnection between resilience, social cohesion, education, inclusion, and highlighting the elements that mutually are reinforcing. For indigenous leaders and our communities, we have argued a lot of time that the model of development do not necessarily align with the values and aspiration of our communities. And in this session, we will be learning about different strategies and in education, but also we will be analyzing in which way beliefs, values, unity, and traditional knowledge system of indigenous peoples really plays a role in building and ensuring resilience. For indigenous peoples, there are at least three elements that are very important when we talk about resilience: land base, spiritual base, and collective base of resilience. And along the importance of land, territories, and natural resources, the collective nature of indigenous people's identity and understanding of well-being and resilience, and the centrality of spirituality are very important when we consider the discussion on resilience. So I really appreciate the invitation of Pawanka Fund to be part of this learning session, and we will be listening to all of the different presentations that really can, in the way in which they can articulate, can really help in the transformative resilience of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mirna. This is provides extremely good introduction in terms of what we are hoping to accomplish in this session. So what I would like to do now is to use this platform, what you have created, and lay out the objective, the scope, and what we expect to accomplish from this session, from this collective. So what I'm presenting now is on behalf of all the partners who are working with us in organizing this session. I would like to acknowledge that these are the logos of the partners you see at the bottom of the screen of each of these presentations. So we have three parts of this session. The first part is the resilience in a time of crisis. What are the lessons from the transitioning energy access? We have distinguished colleagues from South Africa, University of Johannesburg, and the technology energy access that they created, this consortium. So that would be presented in the first part. That would be followed by the digital art climate co-creation hub for climate creation, learning, and digital skill development from our colleague, which is IAII. And then this would be followed by the third part, which we will have indigenous knowledge and the green growth, especially coming from the UNDESA on working with cities, with countries and cities on for the climate resilience and the SDGs. So these are the three parts of the overall sessions. And as I said, the objective of each of this part that the speakers will outline. The first part is providing how this total energy access in terms of delivering to the energy access education, the SDG 7. In the second part, the Geo Chow, this tool that which is being developed, this concept for the global education for the community development, and then followed by the promoting the green growth and the Pawanka funded projects among the 7 socio-cultural regions, as well as the FILAC programs on the indigenous knowledge that we will have in this. Now, the scope of this session is basically, again, we'll cover these 4 parts, 3 parts in the 4 segments. And each one have basically outlined their scope as in terms of the first one, to deliver the energy access to the education, fostering the collaboration. And then, of course, how do we present these digital tools, especially for the climate resilience? And then finally, we will have this indigenous knowledge research infrastructure as a tool that we are developing for preserving, protecting, and making this indigenous knowledge accessible for the SDGs application. So not just for the 5 SDGs that we are discussing, but for the entire 17 SDGs. And the outcome that we expect is basically, so we will have at the discussion and the presentations that will deliver these lessons learned from their experiences in delivering the energy education, experiences with increasing this digital skill and innovation, and the experiences from this different partnership as well as the indigenous knowledge in the 7 regions from the Pavanka and the Filak. So each one will contribute to each one of these SDGs. For example, the SDG 7, SDG 9, 8, 6, 11, and 17. So with this one, what I would like to do is that now invite our first part, which is the transforming energy access for climate action learning and strength, which is the TEA Learning Partnership, our colleague from University of Cape Town. So this part will have 2 speakers, Dr. Jiska de Groot from University of Cape Town and Dr. Masha Munraj from same thing from University of Cape Town. So I'd like to first invite Dr. Jiska to give her thoughts on this part of the TEA Learning Partnership. Dr. Jiska, the floor is to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Milind. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jiska de Groot. I'm with the University of Cape Town, where I'm the principal investigator on this Transforming Energy Access Learning Partnership. Can I please get the next slide, Milind? Following me, my colleague Marsha will be explaining more about the second phase of the project, but let me start with phase 1 of the program. As Melinda already said, we represent the Transforming Energy Access Learning Partnership, which is a capacity enhancing program funded by UK Aid and led by the Carbon Trust, a range of other organizations. And we are implementing this program on behalf of these organizations. And we are a partnership of African and Indo-Pacific universities that are committed to delivering professional graduates that are ready to drive the transition to sustainable energy access for all. And as mentioned, it is housed by the University of Cape Town, but as you can see on the map to the right, we have a lot of partners from different countries and from different, even from different continents, which I will dig deeper into in the next slide. Milind, can I get the next slide for you? Thank you very much. So let me start at the beginning. The TEA Learning Partnership was born from the need to make sure that the energy access sector, in order to achieve SDG 7, has access to highly skilled individuals that are workplace ready. And what we found in a year-long scoping study is that a lot of the people that are delivered by the university system are not workplace ready because the system of learning and teaching lacks often project management, problem solving, but also issues such as working together and budget management and all of these different things. So what we have decided is that we will work together with those universities to deliver this with those universities. And therefore, in phase 1, we work together with 8 universities in sub-Saharan Africa to build capacity for those master students, building new and improved curricula and innovation in curriculum development, whilst collaborating and jointly improving our skills and expertise with the trainers. And that went really well. So that is why last year we were awarded additional funding to continue the partnership for another 4 years. And we were also allowed to expand the partnership. And that now includes, on top of our 8 universities in sub-Saharan Africa, 23 universities in sub-Saharan Africa and the Indo-Pacific. And in addition to that capacity building for master students, we identified the need of also capacity enhancement for those already in the sector. So really helping to support the growth of the sector through the design and implementation of these continued professional development courses. And to make sure that everything happens in a way that is cohesive, what's happening in the sector and the educational sector more broadly, we set out to enhance capacity for professionals and the broader sector, and really serve this networking function through which we hope to improve Southern visibility and recognition, for example, through events, partnership, brokerage, and knowledge sharing. So all of those work packages work in conjunction to each other to strengthen the pipeline of highly skilled individuals. Can I get the next slide, please? So yeah, coming back to the theme of this session, which is about like resilience in a time of crisis, I want to spend a few minutes on the resilience of the learning partnership during and post-COVID-19 so that we keep pushing this SDG 7 agenda. And what did we learn in phase one? So phase one run for 3 years from 2019. And well, as the 19 already said, that coincided with a lot of the COVID problems we've been having, which especially hit the educational sector very hard because it had to stop teaching in person. And what we really learned from this phase is that there's such a strong need to embed the capacity enhancement that we do in the local context. And in doing that, really to create these resilient local systems to deliver long-term solutions that continue beyond the 3 to 5 year funding cycle of our funders. And it means that the content needs to be relevant. So we need to deliver this content that is relevant to those that will be delivering on the ground access, to really make sure that the theoretical knowledge is complemented with the practical and life skills that people need to work in the sector. And secondly, the need for these dynamic and flexible training systems, for example, in terms of delivery in areas with many remote students, limited internet connectivity. And yeah, really that is something we needed, we needed to address and we learned during COVID-19, but also the need to adjust delivery methods where needed and respond to the changing needs in the sector. And really that comes in on top of, this very strong need to deliver contextually relevant education. And having said that, I'm very excited to hand over to my colleague Masha Molach, who will be sharing some of the early learnings from phase 2. Masha, the floor is all yours, and thank you.
Thanks, Jeske. Yeah, my name is Masha Molach, and I'm working with Jeske on the Transforming Energy Access Learning Partnership. If I can go to my slide, please, about 2 slides forward. Yeah, like introduced by Jeske already is the flexible training system, which was really necessary for delivering training capacity building within the institutions. So one of the things, what I want to highlight is a few of the things we are doing in our current courses we are designing. So all materials for the courses are available offline, and we're utilizing a platform that requires minimal bandwidth and therefore allowing participants to study their material at their own convenience. There are limited online classes and events which need to be attended, again ensuring that all the participants can continue and complete their learning journey. We are using an online facilitated discussion platform where participants are assigned to small groups to discuss the posted topics and share their insights. Participants can contribute to the discussion when they have the time available and access to internet. So they can participate regardless of the geographical location and working commitments. In our courses, we have, for both the new master's curriculum courses and the continued professional development courses, we've changed from a traditional approach from which you teach what you know to an approach which focuses on what do the participants need to be able to do or know. These so-called exit learning outcomes can include both hard skills and soft skills. Hard skills refer to the job-related knowledge and abilities that employees need to perform to do their job effectively. And soft skills, on the other hand, are the personal qualities that help employees really thrive in their workplace. Both hard and soft skills can be assessed in online courses, like our TLP courses. For example, presentation skills, which is a soft skill, can be assessed by asking the participants to upload short recordings. The TLP courses all consist of more than one module, and each module will have its own learning outcomes, which will support one or more of the higher exit learning outcomes from the program. This creates a comprehensive learning experience. The learning journey needs to be considered at all stages of the course, from application throughout the learning period to graduations. Where courses are offered in collaboration with a partner or by more than one content expert, modules from the same partner or expert are grouped together in a logical order where modules build upon each other to strengthen the learning process and avoid confusion. We are introducing recorded kickoff sessions to introduce the system, the lecturers, and the learning success manager or the course convener. The recorded sessions allow participants to go back and refresh their memory on the material. We are making use of functions such as release schedule, which is a time-based scheduling, or release conditions, in which participants will need to have passed certain conditions to go through the next step in their learning process. Another thing we have included is catch-up weeks. As most of the participants in the CPD courses will do their studying after hours, we want to ensure that they do not fall behind. So the catch-up week is really there to make sure that they can catch up on their work before continuing to the next module. The Master's Capacity Building focuses on 3 courses which are offered to our partner universities. These courses are local solutions for energy access, mini-grids, planning and design, and appliances for off-grid communities. With more than 40 universities applying to take on one or more of these courses really shows that the topics are relevant for the sector. If I can please have the next slide. The Future Female Leaders in Energy program, which is one of our courses, which is offered to professionals in the sector, is a collaboration between the African Management Institute and UCT, and it is specifically tailored to equip young women in entry-level roles in the energy access sector with the power skills they need to be future senior leaders. The online program equips participants with the skills, knowledge, and confidence they need to thrive in this rapidly growing sector. The objectives of the program are to equip the participants with the resources and tools to become future leaders, supporting more women to pursue careers in energy access, create a supportive community of emerging female leaders, and inspire more women to take on leadership roles in the sector. The modules in the Future Female Leaders in Energy course are a combination of technical and management skills and are all offered by industry experts. The first cohort is scheduled to start on the 26th of July in just over 2 weeks, for which we have currently received 151 applications, which again really supports the relevance of the training. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Misha. We'll come back to the questions at the question period. Now I'd like to invite our next part, which is the Digital Art for Climate, International Association for the Advancement of Innovative Approaches to Global Challenges. Mr. Miroslav Polcer is the founder and CEO of IAI, and he will present his thoughts on this one. So, Miro, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Milind. Can everyone see my slides? I guess so. Yeah, it should be fine. So I'm with IAI, that's the International Association for the Advancement of Innovative Approaches to Global Challenges. And my organization has developed has developed an initiative for SDG 13 implementation learning, climate action learning, innovation, and digital skills development. The initiative is called Digital Art for Climate, and I'm going to present this initiative to you in my presentation and also extend an invitation to experts in the field to join us to develop the educational programs as well as digital tools. So first, again, information about IAI, International Association for the Advancement of Innovative Approaches to Global Challenges. We are accredited to the UN Department for Global Communication, UN ECOSOC, UN FCCC, and also we are an observer civil society organization to the Green Climate Fund based in Austria. And we are building the Global Challenges Action Empowerment Ecosystem GLOCHA with culture, technology, and organizational innovation. And our vision is to empower everyone, everywhere to take meaningful and rewarding climate action with the theory of change that the knowledge is the key ingredient and success factor for deep socio-economic transformation to low-carbon societies. The second organization that I'm representing here today is the Climate Chain Coalition. It is the world's leading network of organizations who are looking how to use blockchain technology for climate action empowerment. And it has been co-founded by the UN Climate Change Secretariat in 2017. We have more than 360 members and really a key player in this field. And our two organizations, IAI, GLOCHA, and Climate Change Coalition, we are looking how we can collaborate with all the members of the Climate Change Coalition to build the ecosystem, a set of solutions, social, technological, organizational solutions that help to empower citizens and especially youth climate action, and with a focus on data and digital innovation. Our aspiration is to have a really transformative impact, to be the drivers of systemic change, and that we have to come from global goals to local action and impact. And actually, I guess the same goal as the whole SDGs Learning program series of events has. So, for this systemic transformation to happen, there are 3 levels of innovation. One is new thinking, cultural innovation with a key role for education. We need to stop thinking that somebody else is going to solve the problems for us, the global goals problems, but we have to understand it starts with me and with my city, my local community, my school, my region. And then we have to see how can we connect those who are working for the common good, how can we drive public sector innovation and digital innovation. And here especially the technologies that my network is working on, blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things. These are game changers which are enabling totally new forms of multi-stakeholder climate action empowerment and incentivization. And that's the added value that I hope that I can bring to this event here, that we build the bridges between the education community and the digital innovation community for transformative impact. So here, the initiative that is at the heart of my presentation, Digital Art for Climate. It's the world's leading UN-associated NFT initiative. We have UN Habitat Youth Program as a partner. We have had presentations in the context of the UN HLPF the last 2 years. We have presented in the context of the Science, Technology and Innovation Forum. We've had an exhibit and a conference last year in September at the UN headquarters in New York. And so we really try to lead in this field and make this potentials of technology available for UN organizations in their efforts to reach the ordinary people on the street, to reach especially young people. And so Digital Art for Climate has two core functions, basic functions. In the past, one was climate awareness raising and public participation through a global art competition, and the second core function is a resource mobilization, innovation for youth, focused action for climate empowerment based on blockchain technology, non-fungible tokens, turning artwork into NFTs and then selling them. This was the logic of this second pillar, which had limited success. But especially the first pillar was super successful. With the initiative has been taken up by CNN. We have been in the Wall Street Journal, iconic Mintz Gallery through our cooperation with Arts Help, a global network of 3 million digital artists. We've been on the billboards in Shibuya, in Japan, and in Tokyo. So really, it's a positive spin to this climate action awareness raising, not so depressing, and it's not fostering climate anxiety, but it's really bringing inspiration, hope, positive energy. And now the focus here to highlight this specific function of the technology is the NFT technology, which can help really to come on another level of climate action learning and also climate action empowerment. The idea is that people can, in the educational process already, but then also in their everyday life and in their entrepreneurial life, they can turn actions and impact and even learning outcomes into digital assets. And that these digital assets can then be collected on an app and traded and used for incentivization for the individual or for a class or even for on a school dashboard. And a key element for this to function and also to overcome a general problem of the SDGs learning, as far as I understand it, that we have a global registry in which climate actions and climate action outcomes from the educational context, but also beyond that, are registered, verified, certified, and then turned into NFT. And through this, the individual learning innovations, learning efforts become part of a global movement. And this is something where I think we can, as a partnership in this field, have a very significant impact. So as I told you, in the past, we've had two pillars. It was awareness raising and public participation through the art competition. And the second one was resource mobilization. And this year, we are adding another layer to this initiative, which in our understanding is transformative. It's a digital art for climate edutainment hub, which can then, it's a model of equipment and educational programs that can be brought to schools, youth center, and other formal and informal education settings. And the presentation today was a call for expressions of interest of potential partners for the development of the educational programs and the digital tools. Element of these digital tools are art-based digital assets, NFTs, or learning outcomes turned into digital asset NFTs, multi-chain digital wallets for learners, a digital SDGs-based global self-sovereign identity, global challenges, action ID. We have a concept developed there, but I'm not going into too much detail here. A global challenges action registry, and in the future also other tokenization, gamification components. We have the opportunity to bring this digital art for climate co-creation, edutainment hub to several interesting events. We are going to present it at a conference at the UN headquarters in New York in September. We are bringing it to GITEX Impact. This is one of the world's biggest tech shows in Dubai between the 16th and the 20th of October. And we will have it also at the COP28, the United Nations Climate Conference, from the 30th of November till the 12th of December. My organization has its own pavilion in the blue zone, 100 square meters, and there this hands-on climate action learning and digital skills development will be implemented and presented as a pilot, which then with the aim that then it could be replicated hundreds or thousands of times around the world. And we build really a movement of for this climate action innovation, which is inspiring, positive, and meaningful. Yeah, so mentioned already before, we will have a festival from the 13th till the 20th of August, which is more a workshop series in Austria, where we will work with partners on these programs. Then we're going to the UN headquarters in New York, then we're going to Dubai, then at COP28, we will have activities in the metaverse, virtual galleries, working on a citizen climate action app, and then also on specific resource mobilization innovations. And we are looking for education experts, digital skills developers, resource holders, climate action, mass mobilization strategists, and others who would like to work with us on this solution. Here are my contact details, and I'm giving back to Bilin.
Thank you very much, Miro. This is very, very interesting. What you presented, these different tools and different, especially some of those emerging tools that you mentioned are extremely valuable for what we are proposing to do now with the next part of our presentation discussion. How do we use some of the tools that you mentioned, Miro, and then also were discussed in the total energy access, in the green growth. So we like to now bring those into this, how some of those technologies can be developed further in creating this, what is needed, as Dr. Mirna Cunningham mentioned, for this preserving and this indigenous knowledge for the SDGs. So I would like to invite now, first, we have three distinguished speakers, Mr. Alberto Pizarro, the Technical Secretary of PILAC, who is really, again, don't need the introduction. He has been one of the best well-known figures among the indigenous communities for several years now. He has served on he's teaching at a number of universities and as well creating this through the different national corporation platforms called the and so on. So Mr. Pizarro, I would like to invite you, and those who would like to get the interpretation, you can use the Zoom feature for the language that you would like to. So Mr. Alberto, the floor is yours. Alberto, are you there?
Good morning, everyone. He has a technical problem. Maybe could we move to another panelist?
Yes, yes. So
please,
what we will
thank
do
you.
that while you solve this problem, I would like to invite our colleague, Mr. Sami Arikat, who just gave the opening remarks for his presentation on green climate. So Sami, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Milan, and I would like to thank you again for this excellent moderation of this session. I think it's moving in a very good way, and it shows connections, very good connections between the topics that we are talking about, and it's all in the direction of the green and resilience and sustainability at all levels, from national to local to indigenous people. What I would like to talk about actually today is about a partnership that we are having, UNDESA, Department of Economic and Social Affairs, Division for Sustainable Development Goals. We have having this partnership with UN Habitat and United Cities and local governments, which is international organization, and UNICE, which is the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. So this partnership has been about actually bringing the expertise from those organizations. And we have been looking at the issues of sustainability and the green resilience from the aspect of at the local level. One of the lessons we have learned from COVID-19 and the outcomes of COVID-19 and the hard lessons we learned is that actually I think the impact has been the hardest at the local level, and dealing with recovery has been most effective at the local level, at the urban and city and community level. So we are coming with this tool that bring together the best practices and experiences that can steer the recovery in the green and resilient direction at the local level. And at the same time, we are utilizing a process, which is the voluntary local review process here. I think many of you are familiar with the voluntary national reviews, which is an official part of the high-level political forum for sustainable development. So we expect countries to come up with their reports and talk about the progress they are making with the implementation of the sustainable development goals, and at the same time, trying to come up with what are the challenges they are facing and sharing experiences. And all that will promote actually making progress and having the SDGs achieved at the national level. And at the same time, we find it necessary that the voluntary national reviews are connected with at the local level with the voluntary local reviews. And that means cities will come up with reports and they talk about their connections to the voluntary national reviews and the projects and the challenges at the national level. So what are the things that we needed to do first for the voluntary local review, which is a process is like led by UNDESA. It needs to be practical and it needs to be practical, action-oriented, so it can be used by the local government planning. It includes budgeting and reporting. It needs to be coordinated with the voluntary national review. There need to be good connection to the voluntary national review. At the same time, participation is a very important factor. So for us to be able to leave no one behind, everyone needs to participate in the process at the local level. And we need to be forward-looking once we're looking at green recovery and at moving in the green direction and to become resilient. And we need to be resilient because that's the new normal now. We expect more disasters, more crises, and we can see that as we have witnessed in the last 2 years. Yeah, we need to be very resilient, and we need to be innovative, especially when it comes to financial resources and instruments. So we are working on this tool that bring together the voluntary local review process and the SDG localization and the green and resilient recovery. We are trying to merge all those three elements together in this tool. And it will be offered actually to the officials of local governments and organizations who are in the process of working on voluntary local reviews, and at the same time, all experts from the UN and other organizations who are supporting the local process. Next, please. Now, this is a tool is currently under development, and once you are working on a tool that involve this large number of partners, we are moving with this with the development of the tools, and these are the we expect it will have 7 modules, and those 7 modules will like merge together the voluntary local review along with the SDGs localization. So this is actually some details about what each one of those modules will have, at least the highlights and the main issues that will cover. So we're looking at supporting climate neutrality, supporting circular economy, supporting natural assets, supporting disaster risk reduction, supporting climate change adaptation. And we need this voluntary local review process to be strengthened and enhanced. So these are like the main topics. And this something will be actually based shortly on the on UNDESA, the SDGs platform, the website, and it will be accessed. You can access it actually without registration. So to make it more practical, you don't need to register for a course to take it, or you can just access those guidelines and learn at your pace and try to benefit from these guidelines. Again, next, please. So this is actually where the tool will be housed. It's on the sdgs.un.org, and it will be under the topic of voluntary local reviews. I would like just to bring to your attention that we are aware of the voluntary national reviews that submitted and overviewed by countries, but at the same time there has been many cities that have been actually submitting reports to the United Nations and showing the progress they are making, at the same time the challenges, and actually asking for support. So I'm showing actually the website for this topic on voluntary local reviews. If you go to this website, actually you will find reports from about 200 cities worldwide, and include, in all regions of the world, and you will find excellent actually experiences when cities are really working on the movement of sustainable development. They want to be more resilient, they want to be more sustainable, and they want to move in the green direction. So this is a rich resource for information for everyone who wants to see the progress at the local level and at the city level. So I want to stop here, but I can answer any questions about this project and this partnership. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sammy. This is very, very thoughtful and extremely useful what we are trying to do in this process. So now I'd like to come back to Professor Alberto Pizarro, the Technical Secretary of PILAC, on his presentation. So, Professor Alberto.
¿Me escuchan bien? Quiero pedir las disculpas porque estoy con un internet muy inestable. Estoy acá desde Bogotá. Estamos participando de una actividad con jóvenes amazónicos, así que quiero enviar un fraternal saludo desde acá en representación de la Secretaría Técnica de PILAC, que es el Fondo para el Desarrollo de los Pueblos Indígenas de América Latina y el Caribe. Para mí es un gusto participar en este importante evento que se desarrolla en el marco del Foro Político de Alto Nivel, donde precisamente uno de los objetivos que se abordarán es el objetivo 7 sobre energía asequible y no contaminante. Sabemos que el cambio climático es el resultado de la práctica de modelos de producción y de consumo que no son sostenibles en el tiempo. Durante miles de años, la capacidad, las prácticas, los conocimientos han ayudado a que los pueblos indígenas hayan desarrollado una relación estrecha con su entorno natural y hacer frente a los peligros y prosperar en zonas de alto riesgo. Sin embargo, en muchos casos, la pérdida de esas prácticas, debido a los cambios sociales, políticos y económicos, ha incrementado la vulnerabilidad de esas poblaciones. Y este problema se ha agravado con el avance del cambio climático. A la crisis climática se sumó la crisis además sanitaria, como ustedes bien saben, donde la pandemia generada por el COVID-19 ha profundizado las desigualdades, principalmente la de los pueblos indígenas, quienes pese a las limitaciones y pocos datos oficiales sobre su situación y sin contar con servicios básicos como energía, pudieron, gracias a su resiliencia, conocimientos y prácticas, salir adelante en esa difícil situación que afectó a toda la humanidad, donde FILAC también tuvo un rol protagónico debido a que logró articular una plataforma durante todo ese periodo de tiempo. El agotamiento de los combustibles fósiles como fuente principal de energía, así como el incremento de los efectos de la crisis climática, exigen que los gobiernos, las empresas y la sociedad generen cambios en los patrones de producción y consumo de energía hacia formas que propicien condiciones de sostenibilidad para la vida en el planeta. La transición de la matriz energética hacia fuentes distintas al carbón, petróleo y gas es una necesidad urgente. Los estados y las empresas involucradas en la producción y distribución de la energía están llamadas a respetar los derechos humanos, los derechos de los pueblos indígenas, cuando se desarrollen estas prácticas, y a incorporar visiones distintas sobre la producción y uso de la energía del planeta. Así fue reflejado por el presidente del Foro Permanente para las Cuestiones Indígenas, Darío Mejía, en su estudio Los derechos de los pueblos indígenas en relación con la matriz energética mundial. De igual manera, la Convención Marco de las Naciones Unidas sobre el Cambio Climático, realizada en 2021 durante la 26ª COP, abordó el tema de la energía y determinó la necesidad de establecer metas en el cambio de la matriz energética a escala global, partiendo del hecho de que las condiciones actuales de contaminación generadas por la producción y consumo de combustibles fósiles son una de las causas principales del cambio climático que amenaza la vida del ser humano sobre la Tierra. Los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible, por otra parte, las pocas veces que se refieren a los indígenas, lo hacen considerándolos de manera individual y no como una parte de la larga lista, y como una parte de la larga lista de los pobres o vulnerables del planeta. No hay ninguna referencia a la riqueza cultural, social, espiritual, ni de ningún tipo donde se mencione el acervo cultural que representan los pueblos indígenas para el mundo. Por ello, varias organizaciones de los pueblos indígenas han insistido una y otra vez en la necesidad de una lectura e implementación de los ODS en clave intercultural, considerando la realidad del mundo en el cual convivimos múltiples culturas, todas las cuales tenemos mucho para aportar hacia un desarrollo humano sostenible e inclusivo. En ese marco, es importante que durante esta sesión del Foro Político de Alto Nivel, en el análisis del ODS 7, los estados, organismos y agencias de Naciones Unidas consideren los siguientes aspectos. Punto número 1. Los pueblos indígenas como titulares de derechos deben ser legalmente reconocidos, incluidos en el pleno respeto y protección de sus derechos individuales y colectivos, para una transformación y acceso a la energía, como lo afirman los instrumentos internacionales. Es importante abordar, por otro lado, los principios aplicables para la participación efectiva de los pueblos indígenas en los planes nacionales de transformación de la matriz energética. Su manejo y cuidado en el COVID-19 pueden ser de mucho tiempo. Alberto. We're having some communication issues. Alberto,
I think his connection was down.
Okay, we understand. So I guess if we try to back again, we will try to get maybe during the discussion period, Professor Alberto, so we would like to wait for you come back and then we will try to reconnect with the discussion period. So now I'd like to invite Ms. Edna Kaptoyo, which is she's from the Pavanka Fund. Amazing work that they are doing in those different 7 socio-economic regions, as I mentioned. And Ms. Edna would present and speak about the lessons learned from those projects that the Pavanka provides the grant in the last 8 years. So, Ms. Edna, the floor is to you.
Thank you, Milin, and thank you for having me in this session to share our experience as Pawanka. Pawanka is an indigenous-led fund working globally to really support indigenous peoples and their communities to revitalize traditional knowledge and practices for their self-determined development and well-being. And in this session, we would like to share examples and some lessons learned from the work of our partners in terms of revitalizing traditional knowledge, but also where they're employing different practices and innovations that relate to community governance, traditional management of their resources, and of course, protecting and improving water, energy access in the different areas we work in Africa, Asia, we have in the Latin America and also North America as well. In terms of the work that Pawanka does in terms of grant making and the partners we have where they're employing initiatives to ensure access to water. Our partner in Indonesia, for instance, in the archipelago, Perempuan Aman, are focusing really in a territory that has faced challenges in terms of the ecosystem being distracted by the palm oil industry and also drought. And so they've engaged as indigenous women leading this to safeguard and restore these ecosystems using their traditional knowledge of how to restore water ecosystems and also undertaking participatory community action research really to document knowledge around it and the value systems as well. They have been socializing the knowledge and also within the community creating awareness and also doing advocacy as well to ensure that the mangroves areas, the community forest as well, rights are safeguarded because then this way they can be able to ensure clean and sustainable water access in for their communities and the well-being. In northern Kenya, a small self-help group, Beef to Garfasa, is doing an amazing work, working around revitalizing customary water management that involves the traditional water management practice revitalization and also the traditional technologies because they are technologies and also knowledge to it that enables them to know how do they excavate, how do they manage their water ecosystem, identify it, and also the practices within how it's governed, the use, and also the management, and also the values governing community access during different times of the year, and also during their cyclical period. And also this is important for nomadic community, and within that work, they're also documenting the learnings and also facilitating really intergenerational learning since this is to ensure continuity and also documenting this traditional technology for community posterity. In North America, for instance, we have the Air Preservation Council in Alaska who really are using cultural mapping, really, which is done intergenerationally to enhance resilience of their water ecosystems, which includes rivers, lakes, and also sacred sites, historic villages and sites as well. And also this serves to connect people, facilitate experiential learning of their culture, revitalize as well knowledge, which is important as well. When you're talking about traditional knowledge revitalization, knowledge is important. And they're doing this and documenting it and developing digital story maps, which make the knowledge available to the present day people, and so community have it accessible as well, and it's helping them as well to define how they orally discuss approaches on ecology, and also support restoration of the ecosystem and how management is done, and facilitate more understanding among people, and connecting them. With energy access, we've had unique models where we have partners in Kenya and also in Nepal, where they are piloting community-based renewable energy initiatives. Like in Kenya, the Ogiek peoples are implementing a village model renewable energy, where they're also setting up learning within the community cultural centers, focusing on lighting and also access to energy that's also traditionally appropriate for the community, suits their livelihood, like for instance biogas, and also similarly in Nepal, among the Chepang community, the support is towards facilitating community to access energy, but those who are off-grid, and also building capacity for them to continue to manage that, but also in using the studies and experiences from this to scale up in other community. However, they're also integrating as well support that this is supporting local enterprise revitalization, so that there is continuity and also sustainability within that component. And in Cameroon, we have African Indigenous Women Central African Network that is also facilitating access to sustainable cooking energy for pastoralist communities, the Bororo people, but also building resilience through supporting communities to strengthen their ecosystem by restoring the high value carbon forest in the community, creating traditional knowledge platform to facilitate knowledge sharing and also intergenerational learning, and all of them also working to inform policy within the work that they do. So they inform policy at different levels and also engage local actors. And I think with all this, we have a lot of examples, but due to time limitation, just to share a few lessons that we've been able to draw from this is that traditional knowledge and the governance systems have been significant resources that have contributed to increased efficiency, effectiveness, and sustainability. Since this forms part of community level decision making for the resilience and well-being, and in particular, this can help, traditional knowledge can help really to leverage on it as is an existing resource, and also it can help in terms of meeting the Sustainable Development Goals target. As well, we see that different partners have been able to employ integrated approaches. Even if they're working on water, they're still addressing issues of gender equality, ensuring the informing policy, facilitating intergenerational equity with their learning approaches, and of course also employing innovation with the different like digital story maps and so on. And this helps them build resilience in an integrated manner, and also using their own traditional practice of solidarity, which also post-COVID, we've been able to see that it's also supported community to build resilience. And of course, what came out as well is the importance of partnership, and how this helped to build on synergies with the different strengths that different actors have at different level, with local government, other non-governmental actors, with other communities, and overall this has supported the well-being of community. And I think as this continues, we are hopeful that this is crucial, that communities are supported in the indigenous communities to really respond with this initiative, but that with Pawanka support, communities themselves define what works, and also are able to provide leadership, and also so we see the importance of really supporting these local initiatives that are important, and that are also building collective resilience, and also how this also can feed into the global space and also more learning so that people can integrate it. Yeah, back to you, Milind, and thank you.
You provided such a fascinating experiences, especially with the traditional knowledges, with energy and water, sanitation, and so on. So what we would like to do now is that use those experiences that you presented, as well as the one presented from Dr. Mirna Cunningham, our Professor Alberto, and then the tools that Miro had mentioned, for example. You can hear it? Yeah. So the tool that Miro mentioned, for example, digital and so on. So what we would like to do is that see if we can use those different tools, these knowledges, through a mechanism called Indigenous Knowledge Research Infrastructure.
Así es. Muchas gracias, Mil.
Digital research infrastructure. Is Professor Alberto is back?
Sí.
Yes, he's back.
Okay. So I'm just going
Mil, ¿me escuchas?
Yes. Go ahead, please.
Sí. Adelante.
Ya, muchas gracias. Bueno, voy a continuar con las propuestas, ¿no? Como comentaba, los pueblos indígenas como titulares de derechos deben ser legalmente reconocidos, incluso pleno respeto y protección de los derechos.
Audio issue, I guess.
Como tercer punto, es fundamental generar un espacio de diálogo con los pueblos indígenas sobre energía y transformación energética, para que a partir de sus conocimientos y prácticas contribuyan a los desafíos que vive la humanidad. Al igual que el foro permanente, a través de la publicación
What I would like to request you maybe is that this audio issue seems to be a challenging one. Maybe we can wait and the discussion part, and maybe if the audio is more clear, we would reconnect with Professor Alberto.
So, yes, I'm so sorry, Milin.
No problem, no problem. So we will try to understand the
persists.
challenges with this remote working, and I'm sure this is one of the lessons learned. So what I would like to do in the meantime is to provide the glimpse of this indigenous knowledge research infrastructure and what we are trying to accomplish, as I said, using some of the tools. So just give you very briefly about this.
No escucho bien. ¿Les parece que termine la idea antes que se corte nuevamente el internet?
Professor Alberto, we will wait for a few minutes and then maybe we'll reconnect with you. Right after in 3 minutes, 4 minutes. So just to come back.
Sabes que no escucho. ¿Sí? ¿Me escuchan ahora?
Sí, secretario, se le escucha bien.
Ya, ahora voy a terminar la idea, entonces, antes que se vuelva a caer el internet. El último punto que señalaba tenía relación con
We will come back at the discussion at the end of this presentation, So just to come back with the ICRI, which is the Indigenous Knowledge Research Infrastructure, it's a global collaborative research tool. It's a digital platform to capture, process, analyze, and present indigenous knowledge from the multiple sources. So how is the evolution? We started this in 2019 at the UN Indigenous Climate Summit. It was advanced from the UN High-Level Political Forum in July 2020. We looked at the challenges for the integration of conventional science and technology with the indigenous knowledge in UN SDI Forum. And then at the UN Food System Summit in September 2021, we came up this kind of idea of conceptualizing how do we create this for the food system, this knowledge infrastructure, And this was basically as a part of the global dialogue. It was highlighted as one of the key initiatives, global initiative at the UN ECOSOC Forum. And then it was at the UN STI Forum, we came up with the very detailed plan of how do we prepare the blueprint for this digital infrastructure. This blueprint we advanced for the disaster risk reduction at the UN Global Platform and Disaster Risk Reduction at the UN Ocean. So what we are trying to do is that adopt this digital platform, this ICRI, for the different application for the disaster reduction, ocean, again at the water summit and so on. And now at this UNFCCC in the last COP15 that was held in Montreal, we had developed this for the biodiversity applications, how this tool can be used and adapted for this application. What we propose to do in September 2023 at the UN Future Summit, we would like to develop and present the prototype of this, and the next September 2024 at the UN Summit of Future, ICRI will be hopefully a complete demonstratable tool can be used for this. So just to very quickly, why ICRI?
Hi, Milan. There's currently a sound issue. We can't really hear anything on our side.
My apology. I did not realize the sound issue. So
don't worry.
Yeah, so we will have this video available at the end. And what I would like to do is that basically the elements which I mentioned in those sound are the one which is how it's relevant for the socioeconomic relevance, how it will create collaboration for conservation, protection, and restoration, and how it will especially adapt to those key considerations that are the Article 8J for the CBD and the voluntary guidelines on preserving and protecting these traditional knowledges, the different practices. So these are the different functionalities that Miro had mentioned, some of those, for example, blockchain and so on, that how we are going to use these tools to make this infrastructure so that it adapts to the different SDGs and for the sustainable development goals. As it was mentioned, basically it will be operated into the 4 different hubs serving the global community, both the indigenous as well as those stakeholders who are going to use this tool. And these are some of the issues that we are going to address moving forward. What are the challenges? How we're going to make sure that basically this tool is adaptable, and we plan to test it as a prototype in different countries and so on. So what I would like to do now is that basically we are just 2 minutes behind schedule. I would like to request again, Professor Alberto, if he's back with his audio issue, and give him the floor that he was trying to present. If not, then we will open the question answer discussion session. So Professor Alberto, are you still there?
Unfortunately not, Milin. We apologize for this situation, but we will send the statement through through DESA and to you. Thank you for
Perfect.
understanding.
No problem. So with all this discussion that we heard from the presentations from our distinguished panelists and speaker, we would like to come some questions from the audience and from the panelists as well. So the first one I like to just, as a very global high level for the panelists, is that how can we capitalize, especially at the local level, from the learnings which are happening from across the SDGs? Perhaps I'd like to invite the panelists who can address or answer this maybe, and then we can invite participants if they have any comments and questions. So anyone who would like to address from our panel? Jessica, you want to, and Masha? Jessica, can you hear me?
Hi, Milan, it's Masha. Would you mind repeating the question for me?
Yes, I was just going to suggest that the first question is, how can we capitalize, especially at the local level, from the learnings which are happening across these SDGs, especially the lessons that you presented on the energy access in Africa?
Yeah. So I think that we go back to the discussion we had yesterday in Milan, is where we've learned these lessons within our project, and what we would really like to put out there is to that we do not want to reinvent the wheel. So how can we collaborate that we share this beyond this this platform, so we can support more than one program?
Any other thoughts? Sammy, would you like to add any thoughts on how do we bring this to the local level in terms of these learnings which is happening across the SDGs?
Yes, actually, this is a very good topic. And as we know, as I mentioned actually in my quick presentation, is that although once we come to the United Nations and to the headquarters and to the high-level political forum, and now this learning session is within the high-level political forum, the focus is always at the national level. And however, the lesson we learned through the COVID-19, which is the largest or maybe the most devastating health crisis in our modern history, and the other crisis that happened after that, we can see the impact of the continuous impact of climate change, and at the same time, the financial crisis and the food security crisis. All those things, actually, we are dealing with the crisis after one. And that's when once we find out that who is on the front line. Actually, the local level is the front line for that are dealing with those crises. So that means we need really to find good ways that we connect what's the national level, what are their big plans, what are their big the direction and missions and objectives, how it can come down to the local level. And we want to know how the cities are dealing with things, how the communities are dealing with all those things. And at the same time, what are their aspirations? What are their objectives? And at the same time, how we can make sure that the things that they are moving and their direction is in the sustainable direction. So that's when we need really to bring the national to the urban, to the local levels once we are talking about sustainability, if we want really to succeed in that. And actually the questions we have been looking at is exactly what are the needs? How can we actually build capacities at the local level? how can we really continue, make sure that there is enough training at the local level, and how we want to make sure that the local level is very much involved and connected to the national level. So that was actually part of this partnership that brought us as UNDESA, which we mainly work at the global level, as you know. And we take capacity building to the national level, and we are working with UN Habitat, who are focused at the urban and city level, and UCLG, which is United Cities and Local Governments, and at the same time, the regional commissions. So how we can advance, this capacity building approach. And I think we don't have any other choice but to succeed in this. So that's my at least comments and input about that. Back to you, Milan.
Thank you, Samir. Miro, actually, you presented that this digital tool that you have been showcasing at number of forums in that you're planning in Dubai, which was in different forums at the in UN headquarters and so on. But how do you see this, especially this emerging technologies, which is not very easily, the tools easily to adopt to those at the local level? It's very challenging, because when you look at the grassroots level, these tools, when you look, when you say blockchain, people get confused. Is this something that's what? How do you address this, especially when you are looking at these different SDGs, Miro?
Yeah. So thanks for this very important question, and I would increase the scope of my answer, not only from the Digital Art for Climate initiative, but also mention another initiative that we are working on. It's a challenges mapping tool for just energy transition that we are developing in the context of an EU Interreg Central Europe project. It's about asking citizens, and especially young people and vulnerable communities, about challenges that they see in terms of just energy transition programs, but also giving them an opportunity to frame action potentials in a predefined reporting framework. So localization of challenges, localization of objects, unique identification of objects, unique identification of stakeholders, unique identification of resources, of activities and outcomes. And once we have this kind of clear reporting framework and a clear data architecture for SDG action documentation, then we can have many of these emerging technologies like Internet of Things or artificial intelligence helping us to really come to this learning, this global learning across programs, across SDGs on how to build the knowledge base and the capacities for SDGs action. And the best case is that we would not have to mention blockchain technology or these other technologies at all. That we just mention the benefit, the added value that it generates, and that people will say, yes, I want to use this tool because I see it is beneficial, and no matter what kind of protocol or standard there is behind, it is clear for the public that this kind of tool, this kind of apps are developing, adding value. And congratulations for your indigenous knowledge research infrastructure. It's a very good initiative, a very needed approach and infrastructure, intellectual infrastructure that the world needs. And I would be delighted really to look how we can join forces. As I said, knowledge is the key transformative power. It is the foundation on which we can build this global SDG action community. And yeah, blockchain technology will help, and your indigenous knowledge infrastructure will then, once it's set up, have the tools and the architecture and solutions embodied will be very relevant for many other areas as well. It's just happy to work on this. It's very important.
Thank you so much, Miro. This is, that leads me to the question to the first keynote speaker, Dr. Mirna Cunningham. Not sure if Dr. Mirna is still here. She is the official spokesperson for the UN SDG 10 equality, and Dr. Mirna presents in a number of forums. So I would like to, this question, what Miro you had, as well as from Sammy, is in terms of how do we leverage this, Mirna, especially when Pawanka Fund is, working in all these different 7 regions, to ensure that this knowledge is captured and well used, integrated, at least adopted for the SDGs. So Mirna, you have some thoughts. Would you like to add?
Well, thank you, Milin, for the question. And what we see as a process in Pawanka Fund is that we identify different indigenous local organization, regional organization, different type of indigenous organizations that are already applying their traditional knowledge for their well-being. And of course, if we look at the different concepts of well-being and practices of indigenous communities, a lot of them coincide with the SDGs. So in the process of supporting and their local initiatives and the whole process of accompaniment from Pawanka Fund, from other indigenous organizations, in an ecosystem in which different actors, different stakeholders can play an important role to support indigenous communities. Of course, they continue strengthening their traditional knowledge system. They link their traditional knowledge system with other knowledge system, they innovate, and they transmit all of this knowledge to other generations because there's spaces of intergenerational transmission of knowledge. So I would say that through direct support to indigenous organizations, something similar to what Pawanka Fund is doing, we can contribute to educating local communities and bringing all of these innovations and practices that we have learned about today to the local level. And this in itself is a whole process of education that we have learned. And we see that when communities receive support in a very culturally appropriate way, and they are able to exercise their right to decide how to use those resources, that contributes to the SDG learning.
Dr. Mirna, you also are a medical practitioner, and I like to see how, especially when we are looking at these different SDGs and health issues, especially the educational component, how do you, you want to add some thoughts, especially looking at the health aspects when we are looking at the SDGs?
For indigenous communities, health has a very broad concept. And I would say that in the last discussions at the UN Permanent Forum, where they address the planetary health, of course, there's a strong relation between the concept of health of indigenous peoples with the health of the planet, with the health of their land, their territory, their resources, with the possibility of exercising their collective rights, and also the possibility of strengthening their intimate relationship with Mother Nature. I would say that that's the way in which indigenous communities are really implementing the SDG through the lens of health, but at the same time applying and combining their traditional knowledge with, in the case of health, their traditional medicine system. We saw a lot of that during COVID-19 in countries where there were no specific policies to address indigenous communities' concept of health. During COVID, the communities were the ones that went back to the forest. They began to re-identify their traditional health system, and they applied and they combine it with different measures of self-determination. So I would say that resilience and traditional health system is something that is very related.
This is the most, I think, one of the important takeaway, the outcome, I would say, for this discussion, the session, the planetary health and the health of all of this, especially looking at this COVID recovery and COVID that as we came out, Dr. Mirna. I just want to, one last point to Edna, if she wants to add some thoughts, and if not, then I would invite other colleagues for the closing session. So Edna, you would like to add some thoughts from the lessons learned from your experiences?
Yes, I would like to, and thank you, Millen, and the other speakers. I think what we've seen in terms of the progress in terms of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, it's still far off. And I think it's because we are not banking on the traditional knowledge. And this can help bridge the divide, because I think there's still a lot of initiatives that are still working with science, but also opening up slowly to really adopt and increase acceptability of indigenous knowledge. But that can help with this divide and also scale up as well. And we know generally decision making, even though it's global, at global level, at national levels, but realities are realized locally, and also actions are done locally, and indigenous peoples' communities are repositories of knowledge collected over a long period of time. And we know their advancement, even with the UN Framework Convention, with creating a knowledge platform really to advance this. But I think it needs more awareness so that the agency and knowledge of communities and how they bring it to climate response and really overall to the health of the ecosystem, not only for their community, but globally, can be supported. But I also saw some important questions from participants asking about capacity building. And I think our partners, Pawanka has had partners who also are engaging local government, national government, even globally, to really create awareness on how they're using traditional knowledge to build resilience to climate and also other challenges they're facing, whether disasters. And also they're setting up national platforms at national level. We have cases in Tanzania, in the DRC, we have in Kenya, where communities are really building platforms to share this knowledge and to try to work with other actors to really leverage on traditional knowledge and to co-produce knowledge as well and inform policy. Yeah, back to you, Milind.
Yeah, you addressed some of the questions in our chat room. I mean, there are a number of questions about capacity building. There are some questions on how do we involve different stakeholders, the private sector, the civil society, the citizens engaged, and so on. So I think these are some of the issues have been discussed and addressed, and there are a number of those, especially when it comes to these tools, like Miro has mentioned, how to get them into the capacity building, especially in those regions, Miro, where they don't have access to these technologies, these divide break, So what I would like to do, we are running 5 minutes over the time. I would just request each of the organizers now to provide their closing thoughts in terms of based on what we learned, and that we will present in our outcome of the report that we will present to you and DESA. So I'd like to begin with maybe Marsha Jiska is there, Marsha, from the technology energy access from the energy, if you want to concluding thoughts from your side.
Yes, I am back. Thank you for your patience.
Yes.
So apologies. So we have some power cuts. So I've been going in and out while the generator has been kicking in. And Some concluding thoughts from my side. I think that sessions like this, where we look outside of our own energy SDG, which is what we get so focused on, and maximum one sort of other SDG conversation, in that sharing these type of lessons and keeping those conversations going, I think will be very important going into the future.
Just to concluding, if you can send one thought that came out of this outcome, Jiska, as a recommendation for our outcome of this session, that would be great. If you can share this maybe at the afterward.
Sorry, I cannot hear you well.
I was just going to say that basically, based on the discussion and what we learned from on the panel, if you can provide your concluding outcome of our session at the end, that we will put our report. So if you can share that. Yeah.
Absolutely, on it. Thank you.
Miro would like to.
I would say that my conclusion from today's event is that for global goals to be implemented effectively, we need to build global infrastructure. And this has several dimensions. One of these global infrastructures is this SDGs Learning event series. And like today, we had the opportunity to build the social network of this expert community of practice. This is very, very valuable. So this is one kind of infrastructure, global infrastructure, that's very valuable. Then the kind of knowledge infrastructure, indigenous knowledge research infrastructure, and intangibles infrastructure that you are building, Milind, is also very important element of this systemic innovation system for SDGs implementation. And the third pillar that I see is that we build digital tools like these reporting frameworks, individual SDGs action apps, climate action apps, and that we have also the digital tools for the educational processes like the digital art for climate entertainment. I think that's also some kind of global infrastructure which connects the people, and also with this global challenges action registry as a very central element. Yeah, I think as a global community, as a global family, we need infrastructure that is global, and we all need to invest, and we also need to find additional sources of funding for this kind of efforts, because without this we have no chance. But let's say the other way, if we put all we can together, there is a chance.
I think the best, as you said, Miro, is that how we can leverage each other's competencies. This is the best way to succeed. So with this one, I like to give the last word to who introduced this session at the beginning, to our good friend Sammy. He brings the wealth of knowledge and the most in terms of how do we take these two learning tools and the capacity building with amazing vast experiences. So Sammy, I think this is your thoughts will be the carry on for the next year's HLPA possibly. So with your final concluding thought, please.
Thank you very much, Milan. Thank you very much, all partners. Thanks a lot to the participants who stayed with us in spite of the technical difficulties that we have faced in this session. And that's actually part of the learning experience, as you said, Milan. And we are now moving from the in-person meetings to more virtual. And that was the outcome of COVID-19. That's when the digital age has been developing so much to cope up with this crisis. And I think human ingenuity is always there to deal with the problems and the crisis and the difficulties we are facing. So this session actually is a continuation of our partnership with all the partners since COVID-19 and how to recover in the right way. And now we are at the stage where we are post-COVID, and how to make sure that we are moving in the right direction, and how to do the transformation and transition to green and sustainable resilience. This is actually the new normal now. We have to be resilient, we have to be prepared, and to keep moving in the progress in spite of all the challenges we are facing. Since the beginning of the SDGs, actually, and the SDGs movement, and even before that, the Sustainable Development Agenda of the United Nations, one of the challenges has always been integration. Integration has been one of the challenges, and integration is about how we can make the right connections. How can we have the connection at the horizontal level when all institutions and all stakeholders are connected? At the same time, at the vertical level, how things can move from the national to the subnational to the regional and to the local levels. And I think this is the subject of this session has been about reaching all the way to the local level and to the indigenous people and to the people who have been marginalized most of the time, and how we can bring them into the process, and how we can bring their voice to making policies, and how things can move from the ground, from the local level, all the way to the national level. So I think we are making good progress in this. And we are really aware of this challenge, and we try to work on it. And I think the involvement of your organizations and your research centers and NGOs and civil society, actually, that's an important component. It's an important dimension, and it's an important enforcement and enabling for these things to happen. So we are glad, actually, that we came together in this session, and we look forward, actually, to keep working together and to keep in touch and to keep in connection with all the partners and all the participants in this, because we have to deal with this together. So thank you so much.
Thanks to all the organizing partners, all the speakers, participants, number of questions. We will try to put those questions together and then present to Amy the report of this session when we will compile our report. So with this one, I would like to hand over back to Amy for her. We have the contact for all the speakers in the last slide. This presentation will be made available through the website. So I will request Amy to take over from here and provide her concluding remarks from the Secretariat. Please, Amy.
Thank you so much for the great presentation. We received a lot of positive feedbacks from your insightful experience sharing, and it really made the first virtual session of the entire 2023 SDG Learning and Practice series amazing. It was a great start, and this recording will be available for all the participants and beyond, including all the materials. It will be available on the 2023 SDGs Learning official website. So on behalf of UNITAR and our colleagues from DESA, I really, really appreciate your time and patience today, and I will see you tomorrow at the same time at 8:30 for another virtual session. And this afternoon, we are going to have another session inside of the United Nations headquarters in Conference Room 5. For those of you who are in New York and are UN badge holders, we highly encourage you to participate, and I will see you there in person. Have a great day ahead, and thanks again, Ellen, and everyone else.
Thanks to everyone.